Let's talk about a pop star who refuses to act like one. Not chart positions, not streams, not Grammy campaigns. Today is about tone, the new emotional currency of pop, and how Sabrina Carpenter turned irony, self-mockery, and sexual comedy into the most believable form of authenticity in the business. This is the unseriousness of Sabrina Carpenter. I'm going to make 3 arguments. First, unseriousness is strategic honesty, a rebellion against the algorithm's demand for constant trauma and confession. Second, unseriousness is the new intimacy. It lets fans feel close without forcing the artist to bleed. Third, unseriousness is power through levity. In an economy of overexposure, laughter is armor, because in 2025, pop sincerity is a saturated market. And Sabrina's greatest trick is acting like she's in on the joke while quietly writing the next chapter of it. Sabrina began as a Disney overachiever, the bright, tiny powerhouse from Girl Meets World who could belt, smile, and hit every mark. She came from the tail end of the sincerity era, when artists were rewarded for being relatable, not ironic. The internet still liked hard-on-sleeve ballads. Then something changed. The same culture that once begged for honesty started screenshotting it, memifying it, and weaponizing it. By the late 2010s, the algorithm didn't want feelings. It wanted content about feelings. You can see why a former child star might get tired of explaining herself. When every confession becomes clickbait, the sane response is to turn sincerity into parody. Enter the unserious era, a defense mechanism disguised as a punchline. What's fascinating is that Sabrina didn't swing toward cynicism, she pivoted toward comedy. Pop culture has always let men joke their way out of scrutiny, but women rarely get the same pass. When she embraces playfulness, whether through suggestive humor or exaggerated self-awareness, she's claiming a social permission space that used to be closed to women. In doing so, she makes unseriousness feel radical. The silliness becomes subversion. It's not that she doesn't care, it's that she refuses to show her caring in a way that can be weaponized. Unseriousness isn't emptiness, it's armor. Psychologists might call it self-deprecating mastery, a way to control perception by joking first. On TikTok, women who lead with irony deflect cruelty before it lands. Sabrina mastered that instinct and weaponized it for pop. The wink, the shrug, the exaggerated flirt, they aren't accidents, they're strategy. She understands the digital gaze. Every clip will be slowed, captioned, dissected. So she scripts the commentary inside the performance. It's Taylor Swift's Easter egg precision flipped upside down. Where Taylor hides meaning in codes, Sabrina hides sincerity in jokes. Watch nonsense. Each outro line, a city-specific double entendre, functions as both meme bait and emotional distancing. If you laugh, she wins. If you roll your eyes, she still wins, because you're talking. In a media ecosystem trained to punish women for taking up space, unseriousness becomes survival. This is the psychology of unserious femininity. The goofy girl as a cultural weapon. Historically, the cool girl archetype survived by downplaying need. Sabrina mutates it into something freer. She downplays seriousness itself. She signals, I'm not competing with you for moral authority. I'm here to make you laugh. The smile disarms cynicism. What could be dismissed as flippant actually destabilizes a double standard. Her unseriousness protects her from the cruelty that sincerity provokes in a hyper-ironic internet. And, ironically, that's what lets her connect more deeply. There's a gendered physics here. For decades, female pop stars had to prove depth, a piano ballad, a crying in the studio clip, an I've grown era. Sabrina rejects that audition entirely. She sells absurdity with precision. The result feels lighter, but also freer. She's not begging for empathy. She's performing competence in detachment. And that, paradoxically, makes her feel more human than the confessional archetypes before her. If Taylor Swift's capitalism engine runs on limited editions and merch variants, Sabrina's runs on moments, short-form virality loops, quotes that double as captions, gifable expressions that require no context. Where Taylor sells you 14 vinyl colors, Sabrina sells you 6 seconds of serotonin. Different generation, same commerce, attention instead of merchandise. Espresso was built for this economy. It's all hook, no bridge, all posture, no pretense. Every frame of the video looks like a TikTok template, and yet the unseriousness works precisely because it's self-aware. She knows the beat is shallow, the lyrics are cheeky, the delivery theatrical, and she leans into it. Its irony is confidence. You're not laughing at her, you're laughing with her at the idea of pop trying to be deep. The algorithm rewards that tone. Quick dopamine hits outperform emotional complexity. Short, repeatable loops train users to rewatch instead of reflect. Where sincerity requires attention, unseriousness invites replay. It's no accident that Sabrina's songs feel designed for TikTok choreography, but also stand alone as memes. They compress feeling into rhythm. The humor makes them safe to share. The craft keeps them stuck in your head. In the attention economy, unseriousness is the most efficient form of stickiness. In meme terms, she's shifted from content subject to content producer. She feeds the algorithm exactly what it craves: sound bites, flirt bites, facial micro moments, but she does it knowingly. It's the same playbook comedians use: control the edit by predicting the audience cut. Sabrina's unseriousness is editorial foresight disguised as whimsy. Taylor Swift spent a decade building a cathedral of control. Every lyric annotated, every rollout choreographed, every narrative sealed tight. Sabrina Carpenter walks out of that cathedral laughing, latte in hand. If Taylor represents mastery, Sabrina represents mobility. She doesn't over-explain, she just moves. Pop used to reward myth-making. Now it rewards motion. Swift's perfectionism once felt aspirational. In 2025, it reads as exhaustion. The culture doesn't want gods anymore. It wants characters who might trip on stage and tweet about it. Sabrina's unseriousness feels honest because it's unstaged, even when it's absolutely staged. In psychological terms, she's resolved the paradox that undid so many of her predecessors: how to maintain control without appearing controlling. Her humor does the work of distance. By being unserious, she dodges the accountability trap that ensnared the hyper-managed pop elite. You can't cancel someone who already roasted herself. That's why the Taylor comparison matters. Taylor's narcissistic collapse was the mirror turning inward. Sabrina's unseriousness is the mirror shattering outward. Both are coping strategies in the fame feedback loop, but one seeks validation while the other seeks escape. The first defends empire, the second dismantles hierarchy. In that contrast lies the generational shift: control versus chaos, cathedral versus coffee shop. But unseriousness has a half-life. Irony can protect you only so long before it empties you. Every joke eventually needs a straight line. If the performance of detachment becomes too convincing, fans start wondering whether there's a person underneath. We've seen it before. Gen Z irony culture, from TikTok humor to Stan Twitter sarcasm, trains audiences to distrust sincerity. They read emotion as manipulation. For an artist, that's both freedom and danger. Sabrina's current high rests on the novelty of her tone. She feels effortless in a landscape of tryhards. But unseriousness is hard to evolve. You can't suddenly drop a protest song without breaking the spell. The same armor that shields you can calcify. Eventually, she'll face the reinvention test. What happens when the internet demands depth again? Maybe she pivots to minimalism, a stripped-back live record, a single take at the piano that reframes the irony as craft. Maybe she goes full theater, doubling down on performance as truth. Either way, the next version of Sabrina will have to risk something this one avoids: earnestness. The question isn't whether she can be serious, it's whether the audience will let her. Pop history tells us every cool girl archetype eventually meets the authenticity wall. Madonna met it with reinvention. Gaga met it with confession. Billie Eilish met it with restraint. When Sabrina meets it, the tension between armor and art will decide her legacy. Humor deflects pain until it can't. Eventually, the pop cycle asks for catharsis again. And maybe that's when Sabrina's next blueprint begins. When the girl who mastered unseriousness finally risks being taken seriously. Pop mirrors culture's emotional bandwidth. After years of outrage and confession, audiences are exhausted. They crave levity with brains behind it. Sabrina Carpenter became the avatar of that shift, not by rejecting emotion, but by filtering it through irony. She laughs so we don't have to cry. That's not avoidance, that's fluency. Unseriousness, in her hands, isn't the absence of depth. It's depth expressed in emoji, timing, and tone. It's the knowing glance that says, yes, I know this is silly, but it feels good, doesn't it? That's cultural sophistication disguised as fluff, and audiences, consciously or not, recognize it. If Taylor's pop era taught us that self-mythology can become a cage, Sabrina's teaches us that self-mockery can be a key. The pendulum always swings, from earnest to ironic, from empire to chaos, from sermon to smirk. Right now, the smirk is winning. But beneath that smirk is a sharp understanding of performance psychology. Sabrina's unseriousness gives permission to dance stupidly, to flirt shamelessly, to feel light in a world addicted to heaviness. In a cultural climate where every post feels like a press release and every emotion is monetized, she offers something genuinely radical: joy without agenda. That might be the most serious act of all. She may be unserious, but she's not unserious about why. And that, more than any lyric or joke, is what makes this moment hers.